Hello, Chris Klug Foundation athletes, busily preparing for the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike, I hope, uh, along with myself. My name's Dean Hill. I'm the head coach of Aspen Pro Cycling. I'm an entrant this year through the Chris Klug Foundation. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone as we all transition through this period between now and race day and having a beer on the finish line once everyone comes across. Chris and Lauren invited me to speak to the group because they felt it'd be valuable to share a little bit of information around what I do personally as an athlete, and also how I help the athletes that I coach prepare for an event like Leadville. I have several athletes competing this year. And before I do that, I want to just wish everyone well. I hope everyone's healthy and safe, and their families are the same as we navigate through COVID-19, which has really thrown a spanner in the works as far as how you prepare for an event like this with all that uncertainty that goes along with it. So when I thought about this for a minute, three areas came to mind, and they were focus, motivation, and training. And I'll speak to each of those individually. Focus came up because narrowing your focus at the beginning of your preparation is critical so that you have a clear outcome in mind. Whether it's a time target, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, or whether it's as simple as through the foundation, enjoying the experience of first gaining entry, second training, and then ultimately crossing the finish line on race day and what that feels like. Be really clear with yourself of what your intention is for race day, and an outcome that you'll be happy with once you cross the finish line. Because from there you can design the training and find the motivation for the training based on what your outcome looks like. Training for an 8-hour outcome looks very different to a 12-hour outcome. So, like I said, being really, really clear with yourself on what you're prepared to do, how much time you're prepared to devote, where you're beginning, the sort of fitness you're leading into the event, and what you can do with the time between now and race day. So that segues us into the motivation piece. We'll speak to training in a minute. But once we know what the training outcome looks like, how much time we need to devote, we need to constantly be finding the motivation to show up every day in training, regardless of weather conditions or fatigue level or other life stresses that we have, family stresses. It takes a village to get an athlete to the start line and to the finish line. And so finding that motivation every day is critical. So I'd recommend just going a little deep with yourself and discovering, where does my motivation come from? What initiated me to first seek out the event and gain entry? What was that? Was it internal? Was it based around me having an itch that I needed to scratch? Challenging myself in this fashion, and it's big. It's a big event. You have to go deep. Was it externally motivated? Was I looking to test myself against others, or the bragging rights that come along with crossing the finish line on race day and completing the Leadville Trail 100? So again, spend a little time with yourself, because you're gonna reach for those motivations constantly. There's going to be days where you don't want to go out the door and you have to do the work, and you're going to lean on those things. And on race day, you're going to have a moment. We all do, and we all have, where you have to dig deep and really have something that, when everything's saying stop, quit, you find something within yourself that is a higher power that says, you know what, I'm going to keep going here, and I'm going to get to the finish. And this race really challenges you in a way where, because it's so long, there's a lot of time for you to mentally quit on yourself and, all the work you've done and all the others that are involved in the preparation for your experience. So, find that gem, find that thing that hits you right in the chest and allows you to go deeper than you otherwise thought was capable. The training piece, I think, takes up a lot of this, where how we design the training is going to highly influence the outcome, as is the way you set up your bike and the nutrition and hydration piece. But the form that you carry to the start line plays a big part in the end result, the time and your experience. So Leadville's a long race. It's an ultra endurance event. You're going to spend anywhere from 8 to 12 hours out there, and so to perform for that long at a pace where you can sustain a level all day, it's an endurance event, and you're using your aerobic system. And the aerobic system, it's not a high intensity system. It's sort of a low to medium intensity system. It's a system that allows you to ride all day at a steady pace, versus the anaerobic system, which has limitations. So your training should be based around developing that aerobic engine, what we call zone 2 training. And in a minute, I'm going to share a couple of links that really help understand what that means. The whole component of zone 2 training is that it develops your slow twitch muscle fibers, and those fibers are highly resistant to fatigue, so they can perform for a long time. And also your ability to use fat as fuel. We have unlimited fat stores, regardless of how skinny you get, how lean you get on race day. And so by developing your ability to use fat, we don't need to use as many carbohydrates. We're going to use still plenty of carbohydrates on race day, but having that ability to use fat as fuel is critical. The two links I want to share with you, the first one, it's you can just punch this into Google search. It's Uphill Athlete Aerobic Deficiency Syndrome. And that link will help you understand what it looks like when the aerobic system is underdeveloped and the limitations of that. And the second one is Zone 2 Training, Inigo San Milan. And you spell that INIGO SANMILAN. Between the two of those, they'll go a long way in helping you understand how to be an endurance athlete and how to design the training and where to target a high percentage of your training, the balance of low intensity and high intensity. We like to train in blocks. So what that means is I like 4-week cycles in training. I do 3-week build periods where I'm adding load progressively each week. And then on the 4th week, I'm taking a recovery week because that load accumulates. I can't simply continue to add load. That puts us in an overtraining state. And eventually we start to go slower. So 3-week build, 1-week recovery. The build weeks are only as good as how well you do the recovery week. And recovery, the volume comes way down. There's no high intensity. And basically, we're trying to move the fatigue needle, which at the end of a 3rd week will be off the charts, we're trying to move that needle back closer to zero so that we can then add more load in the next block and complete that cycle again, and as many times as we can before race day. That's how we move the fitness needle, by continually overloading the system, absorbing training, and then increasing the load again. The other key pieces, I want to speak about the bike and the bike setup a little bit, and I want to speak to nutrition and hydration, because they're three key areas where people's objectives are not met, or their race it can break down. The bike piece, a few areas to focus on. Number one, your position on the bike. So this is a great time now and during your long days, each training block, spend some time getting used to your position, get a bike fit, and be sure that the position that you're in is sustainable. It's no good having a position that's super aggressive and cuts through the wind and is really aerodynamic if you can only ride it for 3 or 4 hours, and then your back starts to hurt and your chest comes up and you sit in the wind. So be sure that your position is comfortable enough to last the distance. Also, the weight of the bike is critical. Getting your bike as light as possible. Any extra weight means you have to carry it up the hills for 11,000 feet. So, ounces mean everything in this race. And if you can invest in a lighter set of race wheels, if you can remove that dropper post that you love so much on race day, and if you can save weight in any other way on the bike, then that's going to mean a lot when it comes to just maintaining a high average speed, maintaining an average speed all day that's going to allow you to meet your objective. And it's just a numbers game. If we're targeting 11 hours and we have to climb 11,000 feet, well, that's 1,000 feet every hour we have to go uphill, and every ounce accounts for extra power that you need to apply to get you up the hills. The last piece with equipment is tire selection, tire pressure, and if we're running a tire that has a lot of tread because bike handling isn't our strong suit, well, again, that's going to slow the way the wheel rolls over the ground. So running a tire that has high rolling resistance and can move across the ground with the least resistance possible, while still giving you the confidence to handle the bike when you have to go downhill. So do a lot of testing when it comes to tire tread choice, and maybe a different combination between front and rear, and running the least tread that you can for rolling resistance, lowering your rolling resistance. The last two pieces, the nutrition and hydration, is key. And when I think about this piece, I target 3 areas. I target how many ounces of fluid do I need each hour to maintain a steady state of hydration. And that's going to be different for small riders, large riders, those that sweat a lot, those that don't sweat, the temperature on race day. So do some testing and training. How much salt I'm losing every hour, and how much I need to replace to maintain consistent muscle contraction. Because cramping it's a reality in a race this long. You can quite easily, if you do lose a lot of sodium, you can burn through your salt stores, and all of a sudden you're in a situation where cramping shows up, and that's not easy to rescue in the moment. And then the third piece is at the race pace intensity I'm choosing, how many calories am I burning an hour, and how many of those do I need to replace to maintain steady energy supply to the muscles every hour. And it's not a 1-for-1 ratio. We're actually supplying a lot less than we're burning. but we need to be clear with, at my race intensity, how many calories am I burning through each hour? This is a start. I hope this was helpful. And again, I want to thank Chris and Lauren for having me along. I hope we get to touch base during your preparation. And if anyone has questions, I'm happy to answer them, go a little deeper on this stuff. My email is dean@aspenprocycling.com. I look forward to all meeting everyone through this process, and sharing this experience on race day. It's very special, and I'm grateful for being able to take part in it.